Tantraha, under the control. He, indeed, Janaha, a person. Swabhavam, his nature. Anuvartate, he follows. Swabhavastam, based on conditioned propensities. Idam, this world, sarvam, entire, sa, together with, deva, the demigods, asura, the demons, manusam, and humankind. Translation. Every individual is under the control of his own conditioned nature, and thus he must follow that nature. This entire universe, with all its demigods, demons and human beings, is based on the conditioned nature of the living entity. Purport. Lord Krishna here elaborates upon the argument given in the previous verse. Since everything depends on swabhava, or one's conditioned nature, why bother worshipping God or the demigods? This argument would be sublime if swabhava, or conditioned nature, were all powerful. But unfortunately it is not. There is a supreme control, and we must worship Him, as Lord Krishna will emphatically reveal in this chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. For now, however, he is content to tease his relatives. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Salakya Shakshur Militam Jnana Tasmahe Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamyam Dadati Swapanam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakam Shri Guru Vaisnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhana Ramatam Vikantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Puritana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Lalita Sri Sadhana He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavanda Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikanta Radha Kanta Namaste Jatakam Sanagarangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwanusute Pranamami Vanchakalpatarubhya Tripasindhuvyayevacha Vakitanam Bhavyo Vaishnavyo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaurakarina Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna is continuing to explain the powerful influence of karma, and how all of us are conditioned by the material nature, and therefore every living being is acting according to that nature, according to that swabhava. Tantra is under the control of that swabhava. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna states, Ichadvesa samuttena dvandamahena balatana sarvabhutani sammaham sarvabhintu paramita. There, Krishna is saying that every living being is under the influence of delusion, sammoham. He is under the influence of illusion and therefore in the grip of lust and envy. And Krishna is referring to Arjuna as Parantapa, the conqueror of the enemies. So here clearly the Nityavayana, the enemy lust, has to be conquered. So that is this conditioned nature. Srila Prabhupada once stated that in all the 8,400,000 species of life, all living beings are under the influence of lust. So if you think about it, from the Indragopa germ to the Devatas, to the demigods, all under the influence of lust. So how strong is this material energy? Therefore, what Krishna is speaking here in one sense is true. It's certainly very true. Everyone acts according to his conditioned nature. Even in spiritual life, we encounter our conditioned nature. We may have an understanding that this is not all there is. In the first verse of Bhagavatam, Jamadhyasya Yadrimriyat Itaratas Charte Svanikya Swarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Nikari Nuyanti Yatsuryaha Tejo Padimanam Yatavanimayo Yatattusayam Visya Dhammasveni Sadavayasta Kuvatam Satyam Param Jivahi. So it is described Nuyanti Yatsuryaha, that even the demigods are under the influence of the illusory energy. And just as one can see water in fire, although it is not there, just as one can see water on land and a deer is running off into the desert, chasing that water, only to meet its death. So, in this way, we become bewildered by the material energy. And the first part and the final conclusion of the verse is now not presented by Krishna. Krishna is not mentioning Jamadhyasya. He's not mentioning I'm the origin of everything. He's not mentioning that the Supreme Lord is all-knowing, that the Supreme Lord is abhidya, that the Supreme Lord is independent and never under the influence of the material energy. And he's not mentioning that the living beings who take shelter of the Supreme Lord attain the same nature as the Lord. A nature which is transcendental to matter, and a nature which relates to the soul and thoroughly detaches from the material body. That is not very easy. Our conditioned nature is very strong. And even after years of practicing devotional service, how much is that conditioned nature still present? To an extent, maybe in the background, depending how much we become absorbed in devotional service. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur speaks about the influence of Maya in his Madhurya Kadamba, and he explains that in the earlier stages of bhakti, up to Anartha Nivriti, he says that the devotional aspect is localized and Maya is all-pervading. He says that at the stage of Nistha, Maya is at some distance and the devotional aspect has slightly grown. Eventually, he describes how at the stage of ruchi, the consciousness becomes covered by taste. He says the entire surface of the consciousness becomes covered by taste, and subsequently Maya is 3/4 towards the horizon. At that stage, the influence of Maya is greatly diminished. But nonetheless, there is an influence to reckon with. In the stage of ashakti, of deep attachment, that attachment goes deep under the surface of the consciousness and becomes very predominant and very strong. And it says at that stage, Maya is like a speck on the horizon. And then Krishna Chakravarti describes the stage of Bhava, and it says in the stage of Bhava, Maya has now become a shadow. A shadow. So, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that due to remnants of previous Vaishnava aparat, there is still a sense of suffering, a sense of klesh in this world. What is in praying, that is totally absent. Maya is totally absent. So I found this a very significant analysis, because we all know that Maya is still present, but then to see it like sort of analyzed in that way, I find it useful. Of course, in my case, that means Maya is all-pervading. So, what to do? But we can be, the transcendental process descends into this material realm. And that transcendental process of devotional service, that can change the situation. Anatamasalam Satsat Bhakti Yoga Madokshije Lokasha Jalato Chakra Satvata Samhita. Says the general populace has no idea that this devotional service can change that svabha. That it can change. In Srimad Bhagavatam it says that it is said that the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance gradually disappear. So, in this way, our swabhav, the mentality that we carried forward from a last life, and by which we were Kanana by which we were placed into this current material body, with its gross conditioning, its subtle conditioning, all that can drastically change through devotional service. That Krishna is not addressing now. So in this way, Krishna speaks now, gives too much importance to karma. But not only Krishna, everyone. Indra also. We see in the whole pastime that Indra is also not free from karma. Indra also has these desires, material desires that dominate his consciousness, very attached to his position and to the enjoyment that he has in that position, and to the respect and everything that comes with it. Okay? So, therefore, Visaya, Chariya, one has to give up the Visaya, these sense objects, trying to enjoy the sense objects. Say Raza Majiya, Mukhabul Hari Hari, that we are simply chanting and are getting absorbed in that mellow of glorifying the Supreme Lord. That's what it's about. All our service is simply aiming to glorify Krishna. That is the purpose of this movement. We have beautiful temple for glorifying Krishna. We have big festivals for glorifying Krishna. Otherwise, what are we having them for? Not just to come to that point where we understand there is no other activities. No other activity. Kichit kevalaya bhaktya bhasvi paraya. But we are challenged by this material condition. But the process of devotional service is so powerful that we can contain this svabhava. We can contain this material nature by carefully fencing it in. Carefully we fence in our material conditioned nature by devotional practices and by getting absorbed beyond sadhana. Beyond simply practicing, beyond simply chanting in a mood of practice, getting absorbed in the glorification of Krishna and getting absorbed in engaging others in glorifying Krishna. After all, that is the Yugadharma, Sankirtan Yakya, the congregational chanting of the holy name. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we find how Narada Muni is looking for the greatest devotee. And there's a description of a Brahmana in Prayag who makes very nice arrangements, even under those difficult circumstances, on the bank of the Triveni. There on the bank, he's not at home, but there he made a beautiful arrangement. He made some sort of wonderful makeshift altar, some makeshift temple, very nicely worshipping the deity of the Lord. So Narada Muni is elated to see such a devotee. And Narada comes there and says, "You are the most wonderful devotee. You are worshipping the Lord. You are glorifying the Lord so nicely. You are the greatest devotee." No, says this Brahmana. In South India, there is a king. And this king, he is not only worshipping the deity himself, he's engaging his entire kingdom in worshipping the deity. Narada can see this is another level. This is a greater level. So this is the essence of this movement. Our swabhav, our conditioned nature, is a nuisance. It is a great nuisance. We are harassed again and again, and we have to be on guard. When we become weak in our practices, negligent, it is Jagadananda Pandit in his Prema Vivarta, who is giving an interesting explanation of the influence of Maya. He says, Krishna Bhaya Mukhahaya, Bhogavanchakara Nikatastamaya Tara Japati Ahaya. So he says, when you get involved with Krishna Bhaya Mukha, with the external energy of Krishna, then Maya is waiting nearby to slap you down. And not fall down, slap down. Yes, you get a little too close to the edge. You think, I'm okay. I know what I'm doing. I'm experienced. No problem. I've dealt with this material energy so many times. I know how to deal with it. I have my tools, my powerful spiritual tools, the holy name, regulated principles, everything I have. I'm fine. But Nikitastamaya Tarajapati Ahaya. Maya is nearby, ready to slap us down. In this regards, I was a long time ago reading the biography of Gandhi, And there was a description how the movement of Gandhi was not only merely based on political principles, but they're trying to base it on Vedic principles, and one of the things was celibacy. So all the leading party members had to follow celibacy. So there was one very prominent man. He was married, but celibate for 20 years. Then the political opponents, they were trying to corrupt this man and arranged for a prostitute to come, and the prostitute came as a secretary, certain poses, and exposed some things, and the man became agitated. His mind became captured. But nothing happened with that prostitute. But it's described that that night, for the first time in 20 years, he went to the bedroom of his wife. So it's interesting how one can pick up the seed of material enjoyment in one situation, not act upon it, and it comes out in another. And in this way, we can see how Maya penetrates. And these days, you don't have to go far because, yeah, we are very busy preaching, but have we made our phone into a devotee? Otherwise, you have Maya in your pocket. Right? The internet has everything. Very powerful. Very prominent. So, personally, I think ISKCON would greatly benefit if we would turn off the internet. Not everyone may like that. You think, yeah, but what about the preaching? Okay, a few limited preachers can maybe, but internet as a whole is just pulling us down. Just pulling us down. We are not absorbed. We're not absorbed in the Bhagavad. We're absorbed in other things. Hardly time to read the books. We read, and whatever we read from the books, probably on Facebook. The snippets, yeah, at best. But where is the absorption? Absorption. Ultimately, to overcome the material conditioned nature requires the mercy of the Lord, and it requires an effort from our side. The mercy of the Lord is causeless, so if He desires so, He can just bestow it upon us, even with our meager effort. But then again, devotional service is Sri Krishna Akarsani. Therefore, devotional service can attract the mercy of Krishna. Because in the end, in the beginning, we may think that a lot depends on our endeavor. And that endeavor must be strong, but even with a strong endeavor, we realize that the material conditioned nature is very strong, and that we need all the mercy we can get from the Lord, from the Vaishnavas. And in the end, we realize that blessings are more powerful. So we are looking for the blessings of the Vaishnavas, of the King, looking to please the Lord, attract the Lord, attract the Vaishnavas' mercy by service. That is our saving grace, to take up responsibility in this movement, to take up responsibility to really bring Krishna consciousness into this world. That's where the change really comes. That's where the absorption begins to take place. How else we get absorbed? In bhajan, in Vrindavan, not easy. Not easy. Not easy. How deep can we go before we meet the limit of our love? here are the gopis. Their love for Krishna is inconceivable, and ours. Like I have a story, I just tell it in the Jumna March because he sits right opposite of me. I was flying over Europe and lots of mountains on a sunny day. They asked me at the beginning of the flight, aisle seat, window seat. Usually take an aisle seat. This time, I thought, well, window seat, see the mountains. So I was looking at the mountains, Alps, Pyrenees, everything. And a nice view, but it got boring after a while. And then I picked up the Nectar of Devotion, opened it up somewhere, started reading, and it said, the gopis had no other interest to see anything else but Krishna. Exposed, right there, bang. What to do? So, how deep is our absorption? I lived a long time in Vrindavan, and I heard so many things about Radha and Krishna, but I never cried. I never cried when I heard these things. I did cry in Africa when I saw the destitute people living at the side of the railway line in shacks, getting the mercy. Or I felt really moved in a Soweto Ratha Yatra when